All right, all right, all right. Hello. Gonna make sure we're all good here on the live streams. Make sure connections are going well. But Happy New Year. Welcome to the very first live stream of 2026. I hope your year is starting off smoothly, just as mine is. And I'm very excited. We're going to be hopping into some great content today. I'm going to give it a couple of seconds here. Again, I just want to make sure that everything is looking clean on YouTube, which it is. YouTube's looking good. LinkedIn is looking good. All right, fantastic. So welcome again to the live stream, the first live stream of 2026. We're going to be doing a live stream every single month to go over a different topic, a different tactical strategy, everything to really help independent RIAs grow their firm, grow their business to hit their 2026 goals. So if that's you, stick around and definitely stay tuned for our following live streams that are to come. And today, as you know, we are going to go over the topic of trust under pressure and how independent RIAs can win when we are in the age of AI sameness, as you can probably already tell. So let's get right into it. I prepared a slide deck. It'll probably be around 20 minutes or so. Then we'll have some questions at the end, and then we'll wrap up. So it won't be too crazy. And let's just get into it. I'm going to switch over to my screen share here. Boom. As you can see me now, I should probably be in the bottom right corner of your screen. And then you can see the title slide for Trust Under Pressure. Again, how independent RIAs win in the age of AI sameness. So without further ado, let's just hop right in. So first up, I want to take a step back to really talk about what your brand is, and more specifically, what borrowed brand is. So most of you, as an independent RIA, you were borrowing brand for the first portion, maybe even second portion of your career. Now that you're entering the final phase of your career, what that means is this is you. You're an advisor, you're getting right into the industry, and you're at an institution, one of the big, large wirehouses. What that looks like is your Morgan Stanleys, your Rockefeller Capital Managements, your UBS, TIAA, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Merrill, any of these. These are, as you know, known as the big firms, the big wirehouses, the wealth management firms that essentially they're the titans of the industry. They run it. And based off of that credential of you being a financial advisor working for or with these firms, you are borrowing their brand. And so a lot of your inbound, your new clientele was kind of given to you, right? People came because of the brand that you represented. People know the Morgan Stanleys. People know JP Morgan, Merrill, Wells Fargo. They understand them, and their brand that they've created over decades has built that innate trust within clients. And so when new clients come around, they trust this brand already, and you as the advisor are able to capitalize on that, borrow that brand, borrow the trust that was built by those large firms in order for you to gain new clients and grow your book. But unfortunately, over time, as you went independent, that's no longer the case. You can't rely on these brands anymore because you went independent, right? So you're no longer a part of their brand. Yes, you have their credential. Yes, you have on your resume that you previously worked for these firms. But as you go independent, this is where you enter the owned brand territory. This is your brand. You own your brand. And again, you should not be leveraging and trying to lean on your previous accolades at these larger firms. Yes, it's helpful. Yes, it might get you started. But truly, the reason why you're able to go independent, that many of your clients likely followed you when you went independent, and why new clients will come to you is because you own the brand. And so when you own the brand, it's really on you. Your clients, your new prospects, they don't come to you for the brand name. They come to you because of you, right? That is the power of the own brand. And that is something that we're going to really emphasize in today's presentation and today's live stream, because this is something you really need to understand. And this is the thing that no wirehouse, no large, big institution can ever replicate. And that is you as an individual. And so what does that actually look like when you own your brand? It looks like your personality, human presence, strong relationships that you're able to build, your fiduciary responsibility to your clients, your methodology that's unique to you, how you solve problems and how you serve your clients, the trust that you're able to build and that becomes unshakable over years of effort, consistency, and showing up for your clients, the alignment that you're able to build with your clients, as well as the access that your clients get to you that they might not have otherwise if they were to go to a larger institution. And so really when you go independent, one of your largest, if not your largest lever for differentiation and to really stand out is your own brand. Now in 2026, why this is so crucial is because there are so many forces that are pressuring trust at the moment. And I really want to highlight the 4 key forces that I have seen that are pressuring trust in 2026. They are institutional abstraction, M&A shock, remote work, and AI sameness. I'm going to take a sip of water here. Let that sink in. Ooh. Hopefully you have some water as well. Gotta stay hydrated. So going back, the forces pressuring trust, these are the 4 that I'm going to highlight, and we're going to tackle each one of these forces on breaking down why that they are an issue right now and why they're pressuring trust, and the key takeaway that you can take to use this as an advantage for your firm and your growth. So first up, we're going to go through institutional abstraction. This is something that you have experienced more than anyone else, more likely than not. And what that essentially means is the sales promises that are given to a client don't survive implementation and execution. Now, an example of a personal story that happened about a month ago for me was not with a wealth management firm, but with an accounting firm. And so the owner of the accounting firm, they went independent. They left one of the large accounting institutions, started their own practice. And I sat with him for about 90 minutes, had a great conversation. He told me all of these different strategies as a business owner on how I can save on taxes, how I can really set myself up, and all these great methodologies and unique methodologies that I did not understand, that I did not know of, and he had me sold. And the second I told him I wanted to move forward, he sent me off to a junior representative, had no idea of my specific situation, didn't know any of the strategies that the owner told me about. And so I actually ended up having cold feet and I decided not to move forward with them, primarily because the sales promises that were told to me didn't survive implementation and execution. And it's the same for wealth management. There's so many different strategies for wealth building and financial planning. And I'm sure during the sales calls, it sounds great. Everyone is super excited about what they can achieve for their financial future. But then when they actually go to implementation, it actually doesn't happen the way that they were told. And so that is a huge aspect that's pressuring trust right now. Customization erodes after onboarding. Now, this isn't just for institutions. This is for independent firms. And honestly, most businesses and service-based businesses in general, a lot of that customization, it starts to deteriorate after onboarding. Onboarding, it's all hands on deck. Every aspect is implemented and accounted for. But then after that, you might lose access. You might lose that customization, and that won't translate over time. And so that's another key aspect that we need to really keep in mind as we go independent. And then lastly, this is something that I've heard from primarily a lot of the older people in my life when they've faced financial planning and worked with advisors. They feel sold to and not necessarily served. And so that's where that alignment really comes into play. And so the main takeaway from this slide and institutional abstraction is institutions tend to scale products, and that has a detrimental effect on trust. And so as an independent RIA, you have the advantage and you should be leaning towards trying to scale trust. Moving on to M&A shock, I'm sure you guys are familiar with 2025 being an amazingly hot season for M&A, specifically for firms. I feel every other week, every other day even, I see a new article on a firm being acquired or a new merger between two firms. And so the M&A shock is very prevalent right now, but it also opens up to a lot of vulnerabilities when it comes to trust. And so in a research study conducted by McKinsey just last year in 2025, they released this, I believe, in February of 2025. Happy to send the reference as well if you want to take a deeper look into the article itself. But 1 in 3 investors switch firms during these transition periods. That is shocking. 32%, I think, is what they quoted. But 1 in 3 investors are switching firms during these M&As, during these transitions, and that is a true shock. And something to be very aware of as you start to build your firm, as people start to transition, potentially consider being acquired or selling a portion of their book to a larger firm. The other aspect here is clients tend to lose trust in institutional stability as the experience shifts from white glove to automated. I'm sure you know this, but a lot of times when transitions happen, when mergers happen, when integrations are talked about and being shared, a lot of the previously white glove, high touch service tends to fade away, and those same services become automated. They're put behind an AI chatbot. They're put behind an automated software where you don't interact with an actual individual. And a lot of times that's to the detriment of the client themselves. And so that's something to also be aware of during these M&A transactions as well as these transition periods. And lastly, again, to further emphasize this, in a lot of articles last year and even early this year that I've read that talk about productivity gains, a lot of times that, whether that be in the form of tech stacks, AI implementation, or centralized leads, it feels like neglect to the client, and productivity gains don't necessarily translate to a better experience. And so just another thing to keep in mind. And the big takeaway here is your portability, your ability to survive these M&A transitions and to really continue to serve the client becomes your insurance. It becomes the reason why someone would stay with you regardless of where you are, because they trust you as the individual serving them. Next up, we have remote work. Oh, hold on. Okay. Yep. Next up, we have remote work. Now, as many of us have benefited since 2020, during the restrictions that were placed, remote work became the norm. And now in 2026, it is almost a given that there's going to be remote work. And so what does that look like? So convenience has become a commodity. It's everywhere. And so presence actually becomes a premium. And that presence could be in the form of, more calls online because it's more convenient. You can do it quicker. There's not as much a logistical headache. But on the flip side of that, in-person presence also becomes an extremely powerful premium. And so again, digital meetings, they tend to solve the agenda, but they might erode the partnership. And what I mean by this is, yes, you can have more digital meetings with people, and that's great. You can potentially see them more often, more frequently, but over time, without that in-person interaction, the face-to-face expressions, the changes, the memories that are made in person, the shaking of hands, what I've come to realize is that partnership actually has a much I would say flimsier base. It's not as strong of a foundation to a partnership than if we were to shake hands and meet up with each other every quarter, every month, whatever that cadence may be. But that is still extremely important to really form a strong and resolute foundation to a partnership. And something that I have noticed, given a lot of my experience in content and social media and creating communities online, the new relationships that I've built, the new relationships that you build tend to stay in this low-level skepticism longer than the era of face-to-face meetings. And as you can imagine, if your relationship with someone is truly only built online through a screen, there's going to be a little bit of that skepticism. Though the best way I can frame this is I joined a couple of online communities. I moved to Vegas. I knew nobody in this town aside from my aunt and uncle. And so in terms of networking and business and friendships, I knew absolutely nobody. And one method that I tried out was to join some of these online virtual communities. And through that, we would meet weekly or monthly. But the issue was, without that face-to-face interaction, these really just felt like blocks on a screen. I didn't feel truly connected to these individuals from that virtual experience. And it was just hard to find that real relationship building aspect of it. And when push came to shove, I wasn't able to stay consistent in those communities. I ended up fading, dropping out. But it wasn't just me. A lot of people ended up fading, dropping out, and switching communities countless times. And so even in the couple of communities I joined, there was a 40% turnover rate in terms of new members and members leaving. And then take me back to when I was getting my MBA at UCLA. For the whole first year in 2020 to 2021, it was a virtual school environment. That was a terrible experience when it comes to building those relationships, especially for an MBA program where half of the value, if not more, comes from the relationships you're able to build with people. And so the relationships that actually have stuck are the ones where I actually was able to meet with them in person because of proximity and the small, 10-person or less groups, not necessarily from the virtual school environment where we met for 3 hours online. That wasn't it. And so as it relates to building your business, building your relationships, really keep in mind that although convenience has become a commodity and it's really nice and convenient in terms of time to really just have more digital meetings, don't skip out on those in-person interactions with your clients and prospects. The big takeaway here is digital convenience may get the meeting, but the human presence is what really keeps the client over the long haul. Next up, we have AI sameness. Now, this is probably the hottest topic of all of last year, and for sure it's going to be a hot topic all of this year as well. But right now, every advisor now has access to institutional grade analysis, but nobody sounds different. Think of it like this. Before AI and before all of these advanced algorithms and large language models that are able to analyze and dissect every single financial plan, before that, as an advisor, you had your software, you had your firm, you had your researchers and analysts that are working with you to craft the best strategy or a strategy that really is tailored towards your client. But nowadays, whatever that primary strategy is, everyone has access to it now, or at least the barrier to entry has gotten significantly lower than previously. And so if everyone has this pinnacle optimized strategy, there's no difference between advisor A, B, C, D, E. The only difference is maybe their implementation, or what I would rather emphasize is that personal brand that we spoke of before. And so you really need to understand that the barrier to entry has dropped, but the barrier to trust has stayed the same. And so any of these aspects and factors that you can leverage that build on your trust and the way you're able to build that trust with clients, that's going to set you apart. It's not necessarily the strategy anymore. A lot of times people, even nowadays, are just going to ChatGPT, Claude, or Grok, or any other AI model and just asking it basic questions on, what's an optimal strategy for my goals for financial planning? And so if that's the case, you need to really step up, stand out, whether it be your multi-generational planning, whether that be your specific types of products you use. Maybe it's a niche that you have, or it's just your personality and you being able to show up for your clients. Next, I also want to say now prospects are researching advisors online more than ever. But again, they can't tell them apart because everyone's saying the same thing. Everyone has the same pillars and values of holistic planning and direct access and the best strategies and specialists. Everyone is kind of saying the same things nowadays when I look at these websites. And so you really need to figure out how you can stand out, especially in 2026 where AI is just flooding the market and the barrier to entry to a lot of this advice and financial planning is getting lower and lower and lower. So the major takeaway here is your unfiltered voice is going to become your only edge. This is how you're going to stand out that no one else can replicate. don't know what this is. That was weird. Sorry about that. All right. So all this to say, we've gone over the four pressures that are the four forces that are pressuring trust. And so now, if prospects can't tell you apart online, what will happen? They will default to the brand names that they recognize, the advisors who show up consistently, and the people they feel connected to before the first call. And that's the powerful thing here. Nowadays, with all the content that you are able to put out, if you put it out there, people can get a sense of who you are, how you work before they even meet you. And so rather than spending time on the first 1 to 3 calls talking about your methodology, talking about who you are, talking about your firm, imagine where the first meeting is really just talking about how to implement the strategy that this individual wants, rather than trying to convince them of your methodology, because they've already done so much research and consumed so much of your content. They already feel like they know what they're going to get. And so now it's just, okay, I kind of want to work with you. What would that actually look like? As opposed to you pulling teeth, trying to persuade and convince someone of your path. And so this is where I want to emphasize your true leverage, your true moat for your brand as an independent RIA, and it is your personal brand moat. This is you. That castle is your firm, and it's going to get bigger and bigger if you're able to master your personal brand. And so this is the moat that you're able to create for yourself and your firm. And what does that actually look like? It's emotional alpha, it's unfiltered conviction, and it's conflict-free advocacy. And we're going to break down each of these 3 components, as well as how you can actually go ahead and start implementing them. And so this is the time to really lean into your personal brand, especially if you are an independent RIA. This is your leverage. It's not your previous firm. It's not the previous institutions. It's you. It is you. I really want to emphasize that. I got to hear it. Your moat is your personal brand. It's you. It's not anything else. It is you, especially in 2026. This is the aspect that AI cannot replicate, the aspect that makes you unique compared to all the other thousands of advisors and independent RIAs out there. It's you and your personal brand. And so let's break down exactly how you can leverage it moving forward. All right, sweet. Okay, so now how to build your personal brand moat. Let's dive right in. First is building your emotional alpha. And what this means is how clients feel seen, understood, and prioritized when they're working with you. And so here are a couple of strategies that you can implement that really help you build that emotional alpha. 1, it could be monthly client webinars addressing the market conditions. Again, being accessible. That monthly cadence is really powerful. You know, you might have currently quarterly meetings with each of your clients, and that's great. But what if you're able to reach out to them more often and share with them more often, get in front of them more often to really build that emotional connection, to build that understanding that you are there for your clients. Another aspect that I really like and I've helped multiple RIAs implement are quarterly office hours for prospects and clients. Office hours are great because it's a low pressure environment where you just give potentially an hour of your time every quarter for anyone to join. It could be your current clients, it could be prospective clients, and they just come in whenever they want during that hour, drop in with some questions, ask about something in the market, and you're just there to give your raw thoughts and opinion. You don't have to worry too much about compliance as long as you're not making any outlandish claims. And then not only does this help you connect with clients, it helps new prospects feel like you are accessible, that you will be there for them when they ask and reach out to you. And then on top of that, these actually end up becoming content gold mines, because the questions that you're asked, other people probably also have those exact same questions. And so one question from a meeting for a quarterly office hour can turn into a whole series of content pieces that you can share with your clients, whether through a blog post, a LinkedIn post, a video, an image, whatever it may be. This becomes a multiple pronged resource for you as a firm and you as your brand. And lastly, many of you are already doing this, but annual in-person events for clients, I would argue to say try to do it even more frequently, because again, nothing can replace that in-person experience, the handshakes, the connecting with someone face to face. That is a premium. That is a true moment of connection with an individual. And so the more you're able to do that, the stronger the foundation of that partnership becomes. The big takeaway here is leverage high touch live moments, whether that be live online, like now where we're live streaming, or live in person. Really leverage those moments to start building the emotional alpha to set you apart from everybody else. Next up, we have building unfiltered conviction. This is my favorite one of the three, to be completely fair and honest. And this is your actual perspective, not corporate approved messaging, okay? You're no longer at those large institutions. And so you don't necessarily have to follow this very strict to the T playbook, guidebook, rule set. Yes, you still have to follow compliance. Yes, you still have to follow SEC and FINRA guidelines, but you have a bit more flexibility now that you're independent. And I would argue to say this is the thing that really those firms and large institutions cannot and will not replicate. And so what could this look like? It's quarterly market perspective statements online. Put your perspective out there. Showcase what your thoughts are on the market. That'll not only help your prospects and clients understand the way you think, but also let them know that you're staying on top of your game. You're staying on top of the market. You know what's going on, and you are addressing the exact headlines that your clients are probably sweating and worrying about by putting yourself out there and putting your statements out there. Could look like annual client letters published publicly. I know this is very common and many of you are already doing this, but if you aren't, this is really crucial. This is key. Again, this is not only a taste of your perspective, but it's a taste of the care and expectation of what your clients and prospects can see moving forward if they were to continue working with you. And it'll set their expectations of what they'll be getting. And an annual client letter, that's probably really nice. It's a great feeling to get that every single year. Another thing that's more tactical, more frequent, and maybe a bit more off the cup to really share your unfiltered conviction, but it's weekly breakdowns of your unique insights. You know, if you're doing some research on a new type of investment product, you know, share your thoughts. What maybe a new vendor came with an investment product and you did your due diligence on it. You ended up not wanting to move forward with it. Talk about why you didn't want to move forward with it. Talk about why maybe this other product you were really excited about that you are going to start recommending to your clients or prospects, and share the reasoning behind it, right? That is going to be really powerful. And also it just shows your unique insights, where your head's at, what you're focusing in on, what you're researching, and share that knowledge and wisdom with the people that care to hear about it. And lastly, this is something that a lot of people overlook. It's participation in industry discussions. Now, there's two main reasons why this is important. One, building on your own, it's lonely and it's not necessarily the most effective. And so if you're able to participate in industry discussions, whether that be on a podcast online, a speaker event where you're on a panel, whatever format it is, it allows you to collaborate with other people in the industry, stay on top of the discussions that are happening, and it'll give your audience a more engaging way to interact with you, your perspective and content, as well as an overarching topic. Now, the second part that is really powerful is it's a collaboration. Not only are you exposing yourself to these broader discussions, but now you're giving yourself an opportunity to reach a new audience. For example, if there's advisor A and advisor B, and they tend to make content on their own, and then they decide, you know what, let's do a podcast together, record an episode, talk about a certain topic, and showcase the way we think. You're exposing yourself to advisor B's audience. Advisor B is exposing themselves to advisor A's audience. So there might be some cross-pollination, and you might be thinking that that is cannibalizing your opportunity and your business growth, but in reality, it's not. You're getting your name out there. And a lot of times people might not understand or might not resonate with you in advisor B's audience, but they might talk to somebody. They might recommend you to somebody because of a specific aspect that you said. Maybe your ideal customers are veterans, and advisor B's ideal customers are tech employees. And so those are totally different customer profiles. And so if you're able to expand and grow your audience naturally in that way and still provide value, that's a win-win situation for both advisors as well as your audience. So the takeaway here is let your voice be heard. Don't dilute yourself. Over decades, for some of you, you have diluted your voice because of the large institutions that you represented. But now you represent your own brand, your own personal brand, your own firm. And so use that to your advantage. Don't dilute your voice, and rather let yourself be heard and share your thoughts. That's what clients want to hear. That's what prospects want to hear from you. And last but not least, we're going to move towards building a conflict-free advocacy. And that means how you create solutions without conflicts of interest. Again, going back to when you were at the larger institutions, you might have had to, recommend and push certain products for your clients because that's what you were incentivized to do or required to do or what have you. And so now you have a bit more freedom to do and to advocate for your clients in a conflict-free way. And so how do you showcase that without explicitly talking about a specific problem or product? What I would recommend is doing a deep dive case study showing your decision-making frameworks and processes. Again, this is to showcase how you think, how you go about implementation and execution, and how that is not riddled with conflict of interest. Rather, you're just showcasing, hey, this is something we did. These are the exact things I was looking for in terms of a product. This is how I sourced them. This is how I found them. And this is how we actually executed and implemented it. And if you have the results and have the approvals to share those results, that's an even better way to showcase this. I also want to emphasize transparently explaining why you chose a specific strategy. I know we kind of talked about it in the previous pillar, but for this as well, really just explain why you chose something, why you move forward with this strategy, why you move forward with this investment approach. These are going to be really key. And again, showing your audience your methodology, the way you think, and what they can expect if they were to start working with you. And then lastly, this is something that I always found a little bit interesting on why people aren't more transparent about this, but maybe that's just a personal experience thing. But I really recommend explaining your fee structure and really highlight your team of curated specialists for two reasons. Your curated specialists, the partners that you have, whether they be attorneys or accountants or other vendors that you recommend that you partner with, that sets you apart, right? It's not that your client is just getting you as a financial planner, but they might be getting you as a financial planner, as well as an attorney, as well as a connection with, vehicles, perhaps. Who knows? But really highlight that. That's unique to you. And so you should be able to share that and showcase like, hey, not only are you going to get me, but you're also going to get this whole team of specialists that I've worked with, that I trust, and that compounds. And the other aspect, the fee structure. Why hide it? I think you should just be upfront about it so that no one is surprised when they actually hop on the call. Everyone's ready and the client or the prospect's ready to move forward, but then you hit them with the fee structure and then, they get cold feet. They realize, actually that might be a little bit more than I was anticipating, or that's not really what I was expecting. I'm gonna wait a little bit. Why do that? Just be upfront about it so that in their research process, when they're consuming your content, when they're doing their due diligence, researching you, your firm, your partners, everything about you guys, they already know what's going on so that when they hop on the call, there are no surprises and you both can just focus on solving the problem at hand, which is likely their financial plan and how they want to go about it. So the big takeaway here is show, don't tell. Walk the walk, don't just talk the talk. And transparency does wonders. It does wonders for me and my business, and I guarantee that it'll do wonders for you and your business. People appreciate that transparency, and when you don't have anything to hide, trust tends to form a bit faster, a bit stronger. And you can, again, start building that conflict-free advocacy by being transparent, showing who you are, what you stand for, and why you do the things that you do. All right. So I know this might seem intimidating, overwhelming, and when it comes to marketing and content, you might be a little hesitant because of the stigma of being a content creator. But truly, this is not about becoming a creator. This is the furthest thing from that. This is, honestly, in 2026, it feels like a business necessity now. Everyone needs distribution nowadays, right? The products, the service, they're all top tier. They're all high touch. You're the best of the best. But there are so many people that are also the best of the best in their verticals. And so it's not about being a creator. It's about owning your brand, owning your own distribution, and really being visible where trust is formed nowadays. And nowadays, trust is formed before the first meeting. Trust is formed on a video. Trust is formed on a piece of content, a blog, an article, a podcast episode. That is where the initial seeds of trust are planted, and they grow over time so that when you meet someone for the first time, they know a lot about you already. They're already on board with your methodology, with your strategies. And now it's just about building that relationship, figuring out how best to solve the problem that they're facing. So really, I really encourage you guys to take the leap. It's not content creation. You won't have to do dances if you don't want to. Don't worry. And it's really about putting yourself out there, building your personal brand, and being visible where people can find you and start building trust with you before they connect with you for the first time. And so how would I recommend doing this? Start small, but start intentionally. Too many times I've worked with individuals that just want to go all in, hit the ground running. They hit on all cylinders, but within a month or two, they burn out, and then they put it on the shelves, and then their brand suffers from it. They're not out there. And so start small, but start intentionally. What does that look like? Pick one format, pick one platform, and pick one cadence. That's it. When it comes to format, maybe it's video for you. Maybe it's text. Maybe it's audio. Maybe it's image. Whatever format it is, make it so that it's comfortable for you, a format that you like, that you can commit to, that you believe in. Then a platform. Don't try to hit 5 platforms at once. I know there's a lot, but really just focus on the one platform that you think your current clients and ideal clients are likely to be on. For me personally, this past year, it's been Facebook. That's still been the king of the platform that I use, that has been great for me getting new clients as well as my clients getting new prospective clients. And then choose one cadence. I would say don't go anything less frequent than quarterly, but choose a cadence. My recommendation would be at the very least every other week. But if you can do weekly, great. If you can do monthly, great. Whatever the cadence is, that's not really the important part. The important part is choosing a cadence and staying consistent. Now, once you've selected one format, one platform, and one cadence, stick with it for 6 months. 6 months, that's all I ask. Stick with it for 6 months and see how you feel. Over that 6 months, you'll learn so much about the processes, the workflows, and you're able to test, iterate, and improve. But I say this because you want to build the muscle before you build the machine. I can't emphasize this enough. I've seen way too many people burn out within less than half of a year of content, even only at a month cadence. And so build the muscle first, then build the machine that can increase your output, increase the number of platforms, increase the number of formats, but start small. As long as you start intentionally and are consistent, I can guarantee that you will find your rhythm and you will find what works for you. And then from there, you just keep compounding, keep growing, keep growing. That is the key. And so all that to say, that is how you're going to differentiate yourself in 2026. It's building your personal brand moat. There's a bunch of different strategies that I've just shared that you can start implementing. If you've come to find that this is a bit overwhelming, or you want to talk a bit more about how you specifically can start implementing this, definitely reach out to me, book your free discovery call. We'll essentially spend 15 minutes just going over what kind of marketing dilemmas you're facing, what initiatives you're really trying to hit, and the goals that you're trying to achieve in 2026. And then we'll break down an entire strategy for you, specifically looking at this, the one format, the one platform, the one cadence over 6 months. And we'll start there. And then for anyone that is interested, our core offering is we create very high-end lead magnets and then run video ads against those lead magnets to really get you guys prospective clients, new leads, booked calls, and ultimately new AUM that you can add to your firm to grow. And that pretty much sums up trust under pressure, how independent RIAs can win in the age of AI sameness. Does anyone have any questions? Let's see, we've been running for, oh wow, about 45 minutes. Very interesting. Okay, very cool. Not bad at all. I don't see anything on LinkedIn. I don't see anything on YouTube. Okay. Well, if there are no questions, I just want to say thank you again. Thank you for joining the first live stream of 2026. We'll be here again next month. We're going to be doing a monthly live stream. Follow me on YouTube. There's going to be more YouTube videos this year that are going out. And feel free to reach out for any marketing questions that you have. Thank you again so much. I really hope your year is starting off with a great foot forward and your best foot forward. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much for tuning in. And as always, stay safe, stay you.